Welcome to ByteSized&Bossy. Your host, Erin.
Tammy.
Chrissy.
This is ByteSized&Bossy. And we have an amazing guest. Tell us, Tammy, about our guest today.
Oh, our guest is near and dear to our heart. It's Miss Julie Zucker from Branded. Hi, Julie. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having
me.
me.
We're so excited for you to be here.
I'm psyched to be here. 4 blondes at a finance conference.
Oh,
Sit
yes.
down and
I think
record a
we can
podcast episode.
There could be a movie about that.
So
Could
we are filming at a conference we're at, and the first thing you told us yesterday when we were chatting, and I'm going to bring it up, is that you do Run the Runway for these conferences. Tell me about, because you work,
amazing.
You
Brilliant.
work from home too, right?
No, I'm in the office 4 days a week.
You are.
Yes,
Wow.
I
And
am.
so just for the conferences, you do Run the Runway.
Just the conferences. Actually, no, I do another service for my at-home.
She always
Hold
looks
on.
good.
Do they have like Lululemon like that?
No, you know what it is? I try and be a conversation piece wherever I go, and I think that your outfit and your fashion says a lot about your personality. And I'm sure we'll get to this, but I also run events at all the trade shows, and we throw parties. And I try and give myself like a look everywhere I go and differentiate myself.
You look amazing.
Okay,
you very
my
much.
favorite look was Sandra D.
Yes.
Because she looked like Sandra D from Greece. She had this fitted black outfit and like good cleavage and beautiful necklace.
yes.
And someone tried to cover it up, and she was cold.
And
I
hot
was
pink
like,
shoes.
I
Hot
was
pink
like,
shoes.
I was like,
Wait,
get
what
away
event
from that
was
woman.
that?
That was at
Leave her
QSR
alone.
Revolution.
Yeah, don't you remember?
And that's where
look
we also
so
found out our
good.
shared love of Peloton
Yes,
and
that's
exercise.
right.
Yes.
That was at the
I
party
do
that night.
Yeah.
dislike Peloton.
And Erin, you came from a baseball game and you were wearing a child's hat. You were wearing a
All
child's
of
hat
that
after a
is
baseball
so
game.
accurate.
I also have a very acute memory.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't
That's a really
remember
good skill to
anything.
have.
That's amazing. So we just jumped right in, but tell us like what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, can I actually do a little preface to you?
Oh, yeah.
Please.
So we wanted Julie to be one of our first guests because we all have the pleasure of attending a lot of events and things that she plans in this industry, and nobody knows, and she doesn't get the credit for it. So I was like, we want Julie to be one of our first people.
Yes.
And so I would love now just to tell people all the things that you do, because she's making the magic happen.
I make the magic happen. So I can share a little bit more about my background.
Yeah.
And when I talk about myself as a marketer, I like to say that I'm like if I were a general surgeon, and I'm the general surgeon of marketing, right? And I've done my residencies in PR, a residency in communications, a residency in website design, a residency in graphic design. And I've really spent my career building up all these different areas of the little parts that equal the bigger marketing role, and events as well. And sidebar in the events, going way back in time, I grew up with my mother. She's retired as an event planner, and my dad retired was a DJ. Wow. So my mom,
You got party
my
in your
parents
veins.
met literally because she hired my dad for a party. And that's so
Looks
event
like she
planning,
hired him for a little more than a party.
She did hire him for a little bit more than a party, and produced a little party, which is now an adult party.
Actually, you're a pretty big party.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big
sister.
party.
Too many parties.
Too many parties. So I grew up with it. Even my house growing up, our garage, we didn't keep our cars in the garage. Our garage is like where all of the party supplies were held.
gosh.
And before there were actual photo booths like we see at all these conferences, my parents did their own mock-up photo shoots and air guitars. And then my house was a party house in high school because everyone came over and like I had a party room.
So you know how to throw a party.
So I know how to throw a party.
But she does more than
but
that.
I do more than that.
Yes.
And also, interestingly, when I talk about like myself, and you said like I've kind of been behind the scenes, is I had a really influential marketing professor when I was younger and in college, and she said to me, and she had the best intentions when she was saying this. She was actually the publicist for Jean-Claude Van Damme. Sidebar. But she said to me, she goes, if you're going to have a career in marketing and PR, I want you to know that it's your job to elevate other people and the brand. Don't expect the credit, and not because you don't deserve it, but that your job.
Also because you're female.
Yeah, well, she was female and she was a badass, so yeah, but I get it. But either way, whether whether the people I'm working for are women or men or the brand, it's all about elevating them. So I really. I've always had that in the back of my head, not as a way to put myself down, but the goal was if my brand gets recognized, and if the founders or if this figure that needs to be in the news gets put in the news, then great. And then it was actually the Women in Restaurant Leadership Conference last year.
Just last year?
Just last year. So Christina Clark and I were talking, another badass lady, and we were in a breakout session, and she was like, you gotta give yourself permission to put yourself out there and start posting about yourself, and it's okay to do that. And that's what I'm like, nobody, I feel ever siloed me. And I'm very vocal. Shatsy and Jimmy, I adore them.
Yeah.
They are probably the two most wonderful men I've ever worked with and will work for, and I don't feel like me not being at the top has anything to do with them because they've been, but it's myself.
No,
and
it's
I
just
put
about
baby
putting
in
you
a
in
corner,
front.
right?
So you feel like you haven't put yourself forward
Yeah,
enough.
and I almost didn't give myself
Say that
the
louder.
permission.
Because there's probably a lot of women that are listening
I put baby
that
in the
are
corner.
thinking that maybe that's
Yes.
what they've done too.
Yeah.
But you know what I think is interesting about that piece is that I think as females, we go into our career and we just put our heads down,
Yeah.
right? And we just work and work and work hard to try to get to that next level and the next level and the next level. And then we get to a certain point where we're like, hold on.
Yeah.
We've like done all this work and we've not appreciated ourselves. We've not put ourselves out there.
Correct.
And you had that awakening last year.
I did, and since then, I made it that, all right, for managing our LinkedIn page for Branded, that I'm only going to be logged on to that on my work computer. My phone, I will only ever log in as myself. So now
great.
it's like I'm making
good.
sure
It's a good boundary.
to put, but also my incredible fashion, let's be honest, has really sparked my posting. No, just kidding.
So what are the
Sharing
things
my
that,
outfits,
so what are the things that you're doing to take yourself out of the corner?
So one of the other
Like
areas
the
other than the
posting, yeah.
events is showing up at the events. And I always say that I'm the least social person at a party because I'm running around making, I'm literally the least social person at any branded party because I'm the gatekeeper at the door. And then,
She
I
stares at-
literally
she stares
met
at the
you
door.
at the Branded party. That's how I
but
met
was
you.
I running around
Did
like
you- did
crazy?
she let you
and just,
in?
She
Did I
was.
let you in?
She was.
I got rejected at the NRA branded party
Oh,
last
she
year.
got kicked
got
out.
rejected.
Oh, is this,
That's
well,
right.
this
Well,
seems like
I
the right
wasn't-
time to bring that
Well,
up.
I wasn't. No, it is. You know why? Because talking about
a great
being
time to
more
bring it up.
social, it's a perfect time to bring it up. I used to work the door, and it was literally was like, oh, I know you, I know Jimmy, I know Shatsy, and finally I had to be like, Shats
Yeah.
actually said to me, he's like, Julie, hire someone to work the door. You need to be walking around, and you need to be social,
Wait,
and
did-
put
okay,
someone
was
at the door.
Julie the
Kick you out of
person
the
that
corner.
kicked you out?
No,
Oh.
it was
Yeah.
Julie. Julie did not look.
No,
it wasn't her.
it
I
wasn't
just wanted to
me.
know if this is where we're having that intervention. or not.
No, that's not
No,
happening.
it's not.
It's not that kind of show.
But being that, I'm always trying to make sure everyone's happy and our co-hosts are happy, and so now though I'm learning to be like, okay, somebody else can work the door. I don't have to be bad cop and let I always like.
So
say to
you're
people-
delegating.
So I'm delegating. Yes.
And
that's the
how
word.
isn't that hard as a woman?
It's
like,
very. I think it's not. Yes, as a woman, but I also have women who work for me. So I just think it's hard as my personality. Like I need to be like I need to let go of this, and I need to realize and trust that I don't have to be doing all 10 things at once. But the other area is our podcast. So we started our podcast, the Hospitality Hangout. I think Shatsy and Jimmy were at a trade show in Vegas, and Shatsy called me. He's like, everyone says we're really funny, and we need a podcast. What do you know about podcasting? I'm like, well, nothing, but I'll figure it out. So I put together like a whole idea for a podcast, and then March 2020 hit, and
Is that how long
literally,
it's
so
been?
yeah, and I think it's important to mention that because as we were launching our podcast was when the world went into shutdown mode, right?
Yeah.
So I produce our podcast, I book our guests, I interview
She's coming for
every
your
single
job, Sam.
guest. I write the episodes, and then we have a production team that produces them. But I think about me as the producer, while our listeners and people of the show might go up to Shatsy and Jimmy, they're the faces and the host behind, and be like, "Oh my God, you guys are so funny! It's your podcast. You guys are the greatest." But while the general person listening doesn't know that I produced it, but all the guests do.
Yeah.
And what I think is really magical about that is now that I am going to these conferences and shows more, because I've given my permission to leave my kids and leave my house and tell myself, it's okay, I can go on an airplane to a conference.
They're going to survive.
But I walk up and down the halls and I see a Greg Flynn, and he knows who I am and I know who he is because I interviewed for him for our podcast. And now I'm walking around so confidently. And so I think the greater world doesn't know that I was behind it, but when I see the CEOs of all these incredible companies that I spend time on the phone with them, and I will go right up to them, I'm like, Julie from Brandon, so great to meet you,
Yeah.
the Hospitality Hangout. And when we talk about steep learning curves, is every day I interview a guest are my favorite days at work because it's just me and them. It's not their PR comms teams. And I really get to be in a virtual room, so to speak, with incredible people. And I get to pick which questions I want to ask. So I'm learning too and
She
learning
has
about
us
them.
eating out of the palm of her hand.
know.
I don't know if the
Yeah.
three of you noticed that, but we're all just
it's
tell
amazing.
us more.
Well, and you're giving advice without giving advice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you keep just soaking in the advice in your sentences without being like, here's my advice.
Yes.
But one thing you just said was you gave yourself permission to go on the plane
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
say
Let's talk
I'm going to a
about
that.
conference. So you have kids.
I have
and
kids, yep,
What
2
does
kids.
that feel like when you're doing that, and what gave you that push to go, hey, I'm going to give myself permission to know that I'm not a bad mom or I'm not doing this wrong. This is okay.
Because I think we all have a little bit of guilt, right?
I have
have
so
a
much
lot
mom
of
guilt.
guilt.
Yeah.
I do not
I have
have
a lot of
any
guilt.
guilt.
Away from
Yeah.
You have mom guilt against your dog. Like
My
you
dog
feel
is,
bad when
my
you're
dog
away from
is
your
being
dog.
so taken care of today. She's getting shampooed and all the trimmings.
My
and-
kids are not getting shampooed. They probably haven't showered in weeks.
So
Yeah.
how old are your kids?
No, I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old son.
So young.
Yeah,
So that makes
I
it
have
even a
young
little
kids.
tougher.
It makes it tougher.
Yeah.
My younger son was born during the pandemic. So that was also one of those tough moments too.
Yeah.
But I really think for me, I've had to, when I had kids, even starting with my older son, I didn't know how to balance being like the best mom and the best worker.
Right.
And I have a lot, there's guilt for me that I remember when I went back to work right after having Zachary, my oldest, and then I was so sad to leave, but then like I got on the subway and I was by myself and I was so happy to be by myself. And then, it's like, and then you feel guilty that you're not
Correct.
with them. And,
Yeah.
I think traveling and being away from the home is really hard. And I think it's been hard for my kids. But I'm trying overall to shift the conversation in my household to being that I'm trying to show them as a role model that, I read somewhere too that nobody calls a working dad a working dad. They just call him a dad, right?
You're an exceptional role model.
And I am a working mom, but I want in my household to not be the working mom. I want to just be mom.
Yeah.
And when I go to these conferences, I FaceTime my son from the trade show, my older son specifically from the trade show floor. I want him to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I have him watch my podcast episodes. I have him see pictures of the events because I want him to know exactly that what I'm doing. And I was telling you this too, is that he called me a baddie. I'm like, what's a baddie?
Yeah.
So, like,
You're
okay,
totally
it means
feeling
badass.
I'm a badass, but like for instance,
Julie the baddie.
He's a baddie. But
Wait,
there's-
does your son have a cell phone?
he does not have a cell phone, but he has an iPad that allows
Okay.
him to FaceTime because we don't have telephones in our home because it's
No one does anymore.
2024.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how would my son, get in touch if there's an emergency?
Yeah.
So he has grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, my closest friends, his aunties, and my husband and I on his FaceTime, so he could FaceTime any of us in case.
That's
of emergency.
amazing,
And
though.
you can get an iPhone without setting up as a phone.
Yeah,
Like you
no.
could just not pay for the cell service.
Phones are expensive.
Phones are
We'll
expensive.
get a used one. I mean, our producer has
And
like
kids.
7 or 8, right?
Yeah, you can. Anyone listening, if you have old phones that instead of throwing them out, you can
Yeah.
recycle them to me. I'll give you my address.
Get on
Back in
kids
the day.
messenger. Yeah, we'll send them to you.
Did you hear that?
You
People
heard it
recycle
here.
phones?
Send your phones to
Send to
Julie.
Julie,
She would
yes.
really like your phones. She'll send you a thank you card, maybe.
Back
But
in
I
the
think
day,
that
we used to do iPods.
iPods.
And you could,
the music
I think,
was on
dial
that.
from
Oh,
an
yeah.
iPod.
You could do this thing.
You did
Yes.
this that went around.
It was
and
nice.
that
It
was
always
the
felt
first-
nicer
rotary
when you felt
phone
it.
back
It was
in the
very
day. It
smooth.
was
What's
a-
funny
Full
with the
dial.
Kind of
rotary
like my
phone-
face. Was that who was touching my face? Was that one of you yesterday?
I
You
was
just came up
not.
to me and
I
touched
don't-
me?
I
Oh
feel
no,
like
that was
I was
Lauren
not.
Selman.
I was
Lauren
like,
Selman
what's-
came
Oh,
up to
I
me
was
and
like, I mean,
touching
I
my
remember
face.
most of yesterday, but I definitely didn't
Yeah.
like touch your.
No.
All right.
but just back to the thing. So, fun story. That was not so fun of a story. So the QSR Evolution Party, when we planned that, the conference is in September. I think we started picking the date in May or June. When we were going to do our party at that show, and I looked at the school calendar. I'm like, okay, the first day of school is Tuesday. I'm going to throw the party on Wednesday, and like specifically plan that whole party. And then somewhere at the end of the summer, until like that happened, they changed the first day of school. So I missed like the first.
I missed the first day of school too
for my
Same.
son, and that was a moment that was like
so what
really.
do you do to the kids to make it up to them? Do they not have to go to school the next day, or can they like redo it again?
No.
Can they miss it and
no.
just have a different
They
first
go
day?
and you just say, "Mom has to work." Sorry.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of junk bought at the airport to make up for it.
Fair.
But funny enough, my son.
We got through the mom guilt,
He's
and
got
then
through the mom guilt, and just like and my son loves the savory snack mix from United Airlines, and I tell this to all
that is
the
hilarious.
flight attendants. So
So
I
they
literally
give it to
come
you?
home with bags of like the United Airlines single, the spice mix.
That's so great.
pretzels.
Well, and someday your son's going to be able to, like, my daughters are teens now, and they one day Googled my name, and they came in, they're like, "You're kind of famous." And I went, "No, I'm not." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "But you're, like, your name and pictures, like, all over the internet." And I was, and then
It kind of is, actually.
it was-
She has good
It kind
confidence.
of is.
it was very sweet, followed by, "Mom, one time you had carrot hair, and you should do carrot hair again." And I was like,
carrot hair.
that's
That's so
wow, what does that
funny.
even mean?
Because you have red
I
hair.
had like some red hair at
Okay.
one point,
How
like
did you guys know
12
what that
years
meant?
ago.
What?
Carrot hair. I knew what that meant.
Carrot?
Carrot
Carrot
hair.
hair.
I knew
Yeah.
what that meant.
Or
But, like,
orange, because it
nothing's
was a
ever,
bad. Yeah.
Nothing
Like
from my
carrot
kids
top,
is ever like
yeah.
a real
Carrot
compliment.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, I would also
Remember.
think that's wild. That's like, what did it mean? 'Cause the top of
Oh.
a carrot looks like that
And-
too.
and
No,
green.
this is all I
Yeah.
got.
So it was just an orange reference.
At
Yeah.
one point it was orange. That's it.
No, my son did the same thing. So, fun fact about Julie, I actually almost was on the TV show MasterChef. I made it
Stop
as
it.
like the final round of casting. And then they actually told me that I was too nice and I wouldn't make good television, which is why I never made it on.
Shit, we can't air this.
I know.
Wait,
So,
hold on.
yeah.
Let's reel this back for
Yeah,
a hot
yeah,
second.
yeah.
You were on. You almost. Jesus.
Loud noise.
Okay,
yeah.
scared me.
I'm a big home cook. Like at one point in my life, I actually was going to go to culinary school, but then I actually realized that working in a restaurant would make me hate cooking, and that's when
So
I
you just
I
worked
had my
around the restaurants.
aha moment where I'm like, I like marketing and I like food, so can I do marketing for food? So that's actually really kind of how I got into.
segue.
So that's why I'm in it too, because I like eating. And
Yeah. It's a
Here
you know
we
we all
are.
like
She
food.
really doesn't like eating.
It's
That
way
is a
more.
lie.
It's way more
Lie,
fun
lie all
doing
day.
marketing for
Lies all day.
restaurants.
Well, yeah,
than
it's like I tell
anything
people
else.
all the time, food and booze people, we sell food and booze. Like,
Exactly.
It is the
It's fun
only
stuff.
industry though that like your party you threw at QSR. People come out and drink. Like I don't like. I was talking to someone yesterday who goes, people in the restaurant industry, like this is a little crazy. And he goes, I normally go to like legal and finance things.
Oh, they're
not
terrified
as
they're gonna get
crazy.
sued.
Yeah.
The
100%.
lawyers? Are you kidding?
I was like, I guess we are different.
I was at dinner last night. I was sitting next to an accountant. He's like, I'm like, what do you do? He's like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, oh, so you're fun. Yeah. I was like, oh God, maybe I was trying to be funny. But
Well,
I'm
see,
like,
you said, oh, so
You're
you
like,
count
the
the
word
teams.
came out, I
That's
can't
what
bring
I
it
get.
back.
Yeah, but bringing it back to the conversation, he's like, well, it is fun because I get to do accounting for really fun people who work in the
Yeah.
restaurant space. So like when you
that's
talk
awesome.
about like bringing it back, like
Yeah.
even though we're at this we're restaurant people, but I think when you support and it's not just necessarily restaurateurs or people who work for tech companies, but it's the suppliers as well. So if you work and supply and serve the food and beverage industry, you're part of it. So.
Well, what was your first job in the industry?
So my first job in the industry, I worked for Zagat. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Zagat,
Yeah. So there was actually a sign when you walked in the office, and it said, "Think the cat, but say Zagat." So that's how I knew how to say it.
Oh.
Zagat.
I would not know that.
Yeah, but prior to that, I was working at a job where it was home and housewares goods, and I was doing PR for them. And didn't really have a love for the industry, and so I said to myself, I'm like, well, what do I want to do? And that's when I had my moment. I'm like, oh, should I go to culinary school? I really love cooking, I love food, but that's when I said, I love marketing and I love food. Why don't I do marketing PR for food? So I'm like, what's a company I love? And at that point, Zagat was like the end-all, be-all of food reviews. Everyone had one in the backseat of their car and in their bathroom, right? Like that's just what they had.
I remember fighting to try to get into the guide.
Into the guide,
Yeah.
right? When you had to submit because actually it was all based on customer reviews. So enough customers had to fill out a form. And,
What
and
year
mail it
was
in.
this?
You had to send in postcards.
Yeah.
This was all through the 80s and
The
90s.
Oh,
80s,
I wasn't born, y'all.
Yeah.
I wasn't born.
No, but no,
I wasn't
in
born.
the 90s.
My ass,
and,
the
I mean, I
90s.
worked there in 2008.
Yeah.
So, and they had already been, that was like kind of the end of their days.
They were going
That
down,
was
yeah.
recession time.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
and I was actually only there for 2 months for that exact reason. Is that
Yeah.
like first one in, first one out, so
Yeah.
to speak. But that was actually it was a blessing in disguise because I think everything kind of leads you to where you are.
Right.
But I was like, okay, if I could work for any company, Zagat. So I googled PR job at Zagat, and it came up, and I got the job. So my
amazing.
messaging, and I love to tell that story, is because if people are like, well, what do I want to do? And we talk about like people who, and my first job was a server. I guess that was really what my first job was. And I was hosting tables. And I remember it was the Hilton Hotel in my town. In the summertime, they opened up a pool, and people could belong to the pool membership if you didn't have
Gotcha.
a pool.
Yeah.
So we had regulars who
lovely
would come
benefit.
in. It was open for the summer, and I was a patio server. And every time I go to a table, before I even sat down, came over, I would drop ice waters at the table, and I would wet the towels by the pool and fill them up with cold water and hand them basically like cold water and lemon and waters with lemon and cold towels. And I had tipped more than anyone else.
Great service.
I remember being a 16-year-old and the manager pulling me into the corporate office of Hilton, and I was accused of stealing tips. Because
what?
they couldn't understand why my tip average was 50% higher than everyone else. I'm like, listen, these kids are all getting stoned in the back. They're stumbling
And I'm
over
busting
themselves.
my
And I'm
ass.
busting my ass and bringing people water. I'm working hard for this.
But
I
also-
remember
So you've been a
everyone's
baddie
name.
since you were a kid.
Yeah, like I remembered our regular
Shout out to our kids.
names.
My feelings
Yeah.
are hurt over that.
Also, you just pointed out, though, that by doing that, you understood your customer and their needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
She was
And
marketing
so very
before she
early
knew it.
on, you understood your customer, what they
Exactly.
needed, and how to get, like, you literally backed into the game of,
Yeah.
like, how do I make this person happy to get higher tips, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
That you figured it out.
I figured it out. But I think like nobody, if I had told 16-year-old Julie that you would be, the CMO at a, for Branded Hospitality Ventures, investing in restaurants and investing in technology, and that you'd be walking around the Restaurant Finance and Development Conference, I'd be like, what?
Being
But
interviewed on a podcast by
exactly.
3 blondes.
Being in front of the camera, not just behind the camera. I
You
would have
belong in
never-
front of the camera.
I do belong.
Really do.
I actually, we were talking about this before. I'm like a theater geek too.
Well, so was Erin. That's why I was like,
I sang a cappella with Anne Hathaway in high school.
Shut the
Stop
front
it.
door.
She was in
Good
Les
voice,
Mis.
but
She
she
was
was
like
in
bald
Les
in Les
Mis.
Mis.
Yeah.
So when at Anne Hathaway.
It's
Yeah.
so awesome.
Hashtag
Actually,
Anne
and
Hathaway at Anne Hathaway.
Is she nice?
Let's be nice.
This is not a. She
Yeah.
gets enough.
I don't feel
attention.
like she's
Let's-
gonna see it.
Let's not give her the.
Fine.
I
Yeah.
mean, listen, this is my moment to shine. Anne has been shining for many.
So tell
years.
us.
Hold on. I love that she
Yeah.
just took baby out of a corner
I know.
again.
Yeah, she did it.
I want to toast you.
Yeah.
So, if you could give advice to your younger self, like if you look back at that server time, what's that advice?
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily to myself because I kind of really did paint the path that I wanted without even
All right,
realizing
other
it.
young women.
So, well, if I can give any advice to myself, it'd be like get out of the corner sooner, so to speak, really.
Yeah.
And put yourself out there because if you don't put yourself out there, you never know who you're going to meet. And I listened to How I Built This podcast with Guy Raz, and he asked everyone like, how much is hard luck versus how much is luck versus hard work? And like I always love that question to people because the most number one answer you hear from people say is, luck is great, but you have to put yourself in a position to be lucky.
Right.
And I think that I've missed opportunities in my life where I didn't put myself in position, and like I think there's luck that could have come my way that I missed out on. But then I'm also a big believer in like you are exactly where you need to be right now.
Yep.
So like I go back and forth in that.
I mean, you're doing phenomenal. You are doing
you really
phenomenal. You are someone
you-
that people want to look up to. When I see you walk through a
Thank
show,
you.
like people are literally flocking to you. So
And
you
everybody knows who Julie Zucker is.
absolutely.
I walk
Well,
around
they will now.
smiling. Yeah. Well, and so when I was in high school, they called me HGL was my nickname for Happy Go Lucky because I would just like bop around with a smile on my face and
love
like
that.
be happy to be around people. So
And also, just to be clear, like we all understand the nobody puts baby in a corner, but for anyone who is listening that might
Yes.
be slightly younger than
Oh.
us, it
When
is
did
a Dirty Dancing
It
reference.
is.
Yes.
Yes.
I know. I mean,
We're going to need to cut
I'm
to an
not
image
sure.
of the movie.
Yeah, we're
Hungry eyes.
Are we,
I'm not
are we
sure
doing
what
this?
year that came out, but like it
I've
is
been
Dirty
meaning to
Dancing.
tell you.
If you haven't watched, are you singing? That's good.
Yes.
She said she's teed
I
this up
did.
with acapella. So like, if this
Yeah.
is the time,
I am
feel
not
free.
singing. I'm already losing my voice.
We can do
We
karaoke
have, like,
later.
a
Yeah,
whole-
karaoke later.
I like karaoke.
Oh, all
What's
right,
your
I have another-
go-to? Wait. What's your go-to jam?
I Will Survive.
Stop
Yeah,
it.
that's my song. And also, I really love, and like I always say this like as a fun thing to people, and they're like, "What's your go-to karaoke?" I'm like, "It's my favorite Sinatra song." I'm like, "Can you guess?" And this is a trick question.
No.
Trick question.
No, what?
It's These Boots Were Made for Walking.
Oh,
I
yeah.
never said
Shania
which
Twain.
Sinatra. No, I never said
Oh,
which
yeah.
Sinatra.
Nancy.
So Nancy.
Not
So
Frank.
again,
These
talking about
boots
men
were
But
versus
people
women.
immediately assume the
Frank.
male.
Yeah. So These Boots Were Made for Walking. I love doing that on karaoke.
We can do
Okay,
it.
another question.
Yes.
You travel a ton. You get to eat at really nice restaurants. I always love to know favorite restaurant.
Favorite restaurant.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
And you live in New York City, which is
And
like
I live in New
dining
York City.
capital.
That's a really tricky
Well,
question.
while you're thinking on it, you didn't mention that you guys also own restaurants.
Yes.
So I think that's something a lot of people don't realize.
You
too.
can't
Correct.
choose one you own.
Yeah, so I actually started doing, so next week will be my 13th anniversary with the company, but we started
wow.
off.
Wow.
Yeah, 13 years. I'm going to throw myself a bat mitzvah.
Can we come?
I'll
You can come.
Yay.
Did you get the
The
branded
dance parties
holiday
are
party
so good
invite?
there.
That's really my surprise bat mitzvah party. So I ran marketing and tech stack implementation for all of our restaurants for, I guess, 8 years before we transitioned from just restaurant owners to restaurant investors.
Cool.
I really love sushi, and I really love very good sushi. I really think Nobu still to this day. Like if
I
you
do
think
too.
about a restaurant, like
Yep.
if I can tell you my favorite restaurant in all different categories of food,
Right.
but I
Yep.
think a restaurant that's just consistent and delicious at an upscale level is really hard to accomplish. So I think when you can find a restaurant, and I think if I go to a Nobu anywhere in the world, like I know it's going to be fantastic and safe and delicious. Steakhouses are not really my thing, only because. Don't get me wrong, like if I'm grilling and we're all eating that for dinner, I'll take a few pieces of steak, but like I can't eat a whole piece of steak that's put in front of me.
I really want you to cook for me.
I will cook for you. I love actually a better question I think is like my favorite thing to cook.
Yes.
And I
Yeah,
love making breads and homemade pastas. So I have like every type of extruder that you
hungry.
can think of. I make
do a
chitara, I
girls'
make
weekend at my
garganelli.
house.
Yeah.
I live in California. Come
Oh
to a
yeah,
girls'
you could
weekend
cook.
at my
Her
house.
house is nice. You could
Yeah.
cook
I've
there.
invited Julie.
I will come. at
Oh,
one
she's
point.
never come.
No, I will.
Momcation.
I'm on
Might be a
vacation.
thing.
I call them
Momcation on the
momcations.
Yeah, I have a funny story about homemade pasta, actually.
Tell us.
Please.
So every year, I always do a dinner party for my closest friends, and this is an opportunity for me to put myself out of my comfort zone, and I pick a cuisine I've never made before. And I put together a whole 3-4 course dinner based on whatever the theme is. So one year I did an Italian night. Well, I can cook Italian, but I was like all homemade, like real Italian. So I decided to make black squid ink garganelli.
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh.
So I found the recipe, I got the squid ink, I made it in the dough, and I really love drying fresh pasta, like overnight. That's kind of like how I do. I think it gives it a better consistency. So this year it was around the holidays. So I hand rolled. I was up. I watched the Late Show, the Late Late Show, and the Late 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 Show.
Oh
so
my.
just to show you how I literally I think I
How long
rolled
it
like
took?
378 individual
goodness.
garganellis over, and
I
just
don't
like
even know what a garganelli is.
it's like
I
it's
microwave
like
most
a
of my
little like the
meals.
top of your ear like flipped over. It's
Oh,
like
yeah. Yep.
and I
you
dried
just
it
go like that.
overnight, and it was all over my table, it was all over my kitchen, and then that's when it was still in the restaurant world, and then I brought in a bag the next day to my chef, and to show off that like, look, I made this hand rolled pasta. He's like, this is hard. I go, yeah. He's like, Julie, this wasn't in the fridge. I go, no. He's like, it's squid ink. That's fish, right? And you need to keep that refrigerated, right? He's like, I'm not eating that. You're gonna get me sick.
Did you start all
And I'm
over?
like, I started crying. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so
I
upset.
shouldn't laugh.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I have to remake this. My dinner party is tonight. Like, what do I do? So
There's
the
no more late
resource-
shows.
So I was very upset. So my resourcefulness is I didn't want to take the word of one person telling me. So I looked up brands
Google
that
it?
made hard pastas that had squid ink flavors, and I got to their offices, and I called 3 of them, and I said, hey, I
That
just
is
did this.
some
This is my
serious
story. Can I serve this for
dedication.
people? And they said, yeah.
Hold on.
So-
That is fact finding, no misinformation or disinformation.
She's not giving up.
Do the
No,
research.
I did the research, and
love it.
I will say I made it for other people, but I let other people eat it first.
And everyone survived.
It was
So
delicious.
everybody
Everybody should
survived.
question when you hand
Yeah,
them food.
I
is
have a
what you're
picture. Actually,
saying.
I'll send it to you. So when you cut this episode, you can I'll send you the picture. You can see all the
that would be
garganelli
fantastic.
just
Also,
thrown in there.
God, I'm so hungry. I want squid. I don't think there's probably anywhere I could get that here.
yeah.
Okay, well, we got a
maybe.
few minutes left,
Yeah,
and I
few
think we're going to
minutes.
do some rapid fire questions.
Great.
So
Bring it on.
I won't start it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. I don't know. What do
you
I
know
have?
what? Okay.
You guys love the rapid fire.
If you're not in this job, what's your favorite job or job you would want to do?
Stay-at-home mom. It's the hardest job in the world.
It's so hard.
Okay, if you won the lottery, what would you do with the money?
I would buy a house outright so I don't have a mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
I would put the money aside for my kids to be able to have college for free. Depending on how much money I want, I'd also put money aside so they could then own their own homes without a mortgage. And then I would fly everyone I know to Tammy's for a girl weekend.
Also, she's thought about this. That was some
Yeah,
thought.
that was like she had a plan. I have a
Yeah.
plan too, but
Guilty
this isn't
pleasure.
I
about
have no
me.
plan. I want money.
Guilty pleasure. Gosh, I mean, it's not even guilty pleasure, but like my one thing for me, my favorite thing in the world is exercising. And like, I don't look at exercising as I have to do this, and I don't look at it as hard work. I literally get giddy, like, oh my God, it's an hour to myself and I get to exercise.
We're
I
gonna have
know,
to
look at
agree to
Erin's
disagree
face.
When
there.
she told me
Yeah.
that, I nearly lost my
Yeah.
shit.
No,
I
but
thought
It
it's
kinda makes me nauseous.
it is. It
You guys can
fills
hang out
my
with Jim.
cup, like Some
Yeah.
women, get off on other things. I don't know, like working out, like
I
jumps
think
up
of
my
a lot of
endorphins.
things that women can get off on other than working out.
You know what I feel about like
Chocolate.
exercise? I feel
Yeah.
Champagne.
I feel like when I exercise that it just puts me in like the right state of mind to handle like whatever's going to come at me that during the day.
I can tell
Yeah.
when you exercise in the morning. You're
Yeah.
much nicer.
Yeah.
You know what? Look at yourself in the
Yeah.
mirror in a tank top and lift heavy weights and be like, I am badass.
That's right.
You know?
I love my traps. They're my best trophies.
Oh, my triceps
Yes.
are killing
What's
it
your
right now.
most embarrassing moment?
Most embarrassing moment. Oh, this is a good one. This is a young Julie moment.
Okay.
So, do you guys remember the show Total Request Live?
Yes,
Yeah.
TRL.
So I had a connection. So I got to be in the live audience for TRL. And part of what Total Request Live is they used to bring on, there was like, it was top 10 songs of the week. It was on Fridays. And someone from the audience got to bring in the that song of the week. So
With that guy.
Yeah.
Whatever that guy was.
Carson Daly.
Carson
Yeah.
Daly.
First job.
Hello. Yeah.
So long story short, and they tell you what to say. So I had to introduce Lady Marmalade. Remember that? Like,
Oh my gosh,
Touche.
yeah.
Like Christina
Yeah.
Aguilera,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
So they're like, all right, Julie, you've got to say, hey, my name is Jules, and every time I hear Lady Marmalade on the radio, I put down my windows and I turn up my music and I sing it like I'm on the way to the Moulin Rouge, right? But I remember what I was wearing. I was wearing
Can we find the footage?
Yes, I have it. I
Oh
was
my
wearing
God.
Send it
a
in.
coral polo dress. That was when Ralph Lauren Polo made
yeah.
dresses.
Yes.
The pop collar. And I was with my cousin, and she was wearing the same dress in teal, but basically they separated us and sat me next to a really cute guy, right? So, I mean, this is podcasting, my children might listen to this, but whatever, it's all PJ. Anyway, I was
I
sitting
can't wait
there,
for your
and like
kids to
right
look this
before
up.
the camera went on my face, like, he like puts his hand like on my knee, and he's like, good luck, babe. And I'm like, it just threw me off, right? And I was like, hi, my name's Jules. And, oh, wait. Sorry, before I give you the punchline.
Oh.
This was before the days of social media, thankfully.
Oh,
and
yeah,
but
thank God.
everyone watched TRL, and there was a half day, so I made everyone I knew watch TRL.
Everyone
that day.
watches TRL.
So everyone was
I
seeing
was
your
like,
moment.
hey, my name is Jules, and every time I hear Lady Marmalade on the radio, I put up my windows and I turn off my music. And I realized I messed it up. And I
And it was
started
live.
flirting laughing. Like, it was like horse laugh, like, and and then they got so mad at me. And after that, they made everyone rehearse their lines. And,
That's so
I
funny.
think,
You, like,
and I
said it
say it's my
backwards.
most embarrassing moment because if that happened to me now as an adult, I'd laugh at myself.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I
But
was
when you were a
mortified.
kid,
I
at
was
that
really,
age,
and thank
yeah.
God there
How
was
old
no
were
social
you?
media, there would be a meme about me.
And you realize that
15 or 16 years old.
Yeah.
Don't
And-
send us that. Nobody needs to see it. You've
Oh, I'll
already
show
been
you guys. I'll
embarrassed
show you guys
enough.
tonight. I'll show
Yes,
you.
yeah.
Touché avec moi, ce soir.
What, you weren't gonna sing? No.
Hey, sister,
Whatever.
go,
You're really
sister,
against
go,
the singing
sister.
today. It's fine.
Singer. Not with
I
my
won't
voice.
start the
My
next
voice
part.
is so yucky.
You know what? I'll tell you something about that too. It's not about how good you are; it's about your confidence.
It's
So
about
I talk
confidence.
about that with my son. Like he really loves singing and he loves acting. And so I'm like, oh, is he a good singer? I'm like, no, but he's got great confidence. And I
Yeah.
think that's half the battle.
It
So
is.
You know what? If you can go up on that stage and if you can sing it like you're on the way to the Moulin Rouge and just be confident about it,
Absolutely.
nobody's gonna know. Maybe someone will be like, well, that girl sucked.
Yeah.
But they won't
Like,
tell you that to your face.
She's not
Lots of
very
people
good.
would
She's
say
not
that.
key.
Well, and the higher you go,
Yeah.
the more haters you're gonna have. And
Yeah,
I found
yeah.
that in my career. I think a lot of women find that in their career. But like, have you found that as well? Like that there's some people that just, you're not their cup of tea.
I have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah, I'm sure there's people.
HGL.
I mean,
She's
like
not-
no, but like
Yeah,
I'm the
she's
girl.
not
Like
her.
I don't know. You didn't come into my party. You must have hated me for a moment. I think
No.
Tammy, like the first time we reconnected,
think I
I think you were like, "Who is this girl?" And
I was
then
like,
you
"Who
got to,
are you?" I didn't even know
But
who
that's
you
the thing.
were.
I think like you were a moment. You're like, "Oh, I get you. I like you." You know, but like
Yeah.
not to say you didn't like me before.
I just didn't know
But
you.
I just think you didn't know me.
Yeah.
So
It also seems like it doesn't bother you. That,
it
like,
doesn't bother me, but like to know that like I'm sure I've pissed people off like not being able to come into the party, but like I've removed myself now. I can blame that on somebody else.
That comes
But,
with like maturity and age, I think,
Yeah.
too.
For sure.
So I just try and be me and happy. But again, like we're talking about women, and I mentioned Chatsy and Jimmy before. Like they support me and they make me
Yeah.
feel like I am equal in part. And I think that's also part of my confidence is that because I have people who support me, that I really
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
be
But I
confident.
also think, I think we have a really good group of
Yeah.
females in our space who welcome each other, come sit next to me,
Yep.
What can I help you with? Can I borrow some dry shampoo? Like
I call it a weird family. It's a weird family.
Jocelyn, I had to borrow
I still
dry
have the
shampoo.
deodorant you gave me.
Oh, yep, she borrowed deodorant
Yeah,
from
I forgot
Tammy.
deodorant.
There you go.
Do you need a toothbrush, deodorant,
Yes.
anything?
Oh,
I probably have
shower
it. You
cap.
need Pepto.
Yeah.
I have a shower cap.
I know, you gave it to
I've
me.
got gummy bears. If you need a gummy bear, I'm always good for that. I got a bag of Haribo
I have
stashed
gummies
in my
too.
bag. Yes.
I think we have a girl.
I think I want
Sammy.
her gummy bears.
Mine are Haribo.
Those
They're
are better.
delicious.
Yeah, the
I
pineapple
think we have a
ones.
good group.
Yep.
And I think that we have all really like
Yeah.
dialed in and said, let's support each other. Let's lift each other up. Let's do what we can for each other to help them get to the next level. And I think like I really love that about our space
Me too.
and about our crew that we
Well, because we're building
found.
it.
Yeah, it's
Right.
awesome.
So, as our time together is coming to a close
Yes,
today,
so
and
fun.
we
So fun.
we want to invite people who would like to do this and be on the podcast to reach out to us.
Yep.
Remind me of our email again.
Bite-sized
and Bossy.
booking. Bite-sized. We're not good at this. That's
Yeah.
what we
Sam,
Just look
What's
up
our
Tammy
email?
Billings on
Bite-sized?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Or just Tammy K. Billings on
You can just
LinkedIn.
find
Yes.
us.
look one of us up on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Bookings,
Turns out we work in
bite-sized and
marketing.
bossy
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
But
VY.
who would you
So-
nominate?
So we want guests to
Yep.
then like basically say, hey, you should have so and so on, and try to. That's when we can try to get this to grow and be viral. So like you don't have to name someone now unless you want to, but
We
we
totally want to. Do it.
We don't want to
Do
put you
it.
on the spot.
do it.
Oh,
Okay, Erin wants to put you on the spot.
All
So does
right.
Chrissy. Tammy has your back.
Yes.
So Tammy has my back. You know, who I think is really fantastic and is also somebody who is not being put in the corner ever is Kelly Grogan from Restaurant Crumbs.
Love
Yeah.
Kelly. Yep.
She's amazing. I have loved getting to know her from her journey and where she
me
is
too.
and how she's going off on her own. And she's so honest and she's so eloquent and she's an amazing badass. And I think she
Wait, where
really
is she?
has
Where
it.
does she work?
She's in New York.
Crumbs.
Yeah,
Restaurant
Restaurant
Crumbs.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right,
I
Kelly.
nominate Kelly Grogan because
You're being
she's
nominated.
fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye.
Cheers.